Hey, we haven't talked before. Name's Thogra.
Greetings, Thogra. I am Xelzaz, lawman of House Telvanni.
Ah, you're a wizard, eh?
Wizard? Of sorts, I suppose. I dabble in magic, but I wouldn't call myself a wizard.
Fine then. Nice to meet you. Not wizard. Name's Thogra. I dabble in bounty hunting and knocking heads together.
That seems like the usual orc pastime. Nice to meet you, Thogra.
I hope me and Thogra will get along.
Are you alright? Seemed a bit touch and go there for a moment.
I'll live. Who are you then?
I am Xelzaz, lawman of House Telvanni.
Ah, you're a wizard, eh?
Wizard? Of sorts, I suppose. I dabble in magic, but I wouldn't call myself a wizard.
Fine then. Nice to meet you. Not wizard. Name's Thogra. I dabble in bounty hunting and knocking heads together.
That seems like the usual orc pastime. Nice to meet you, Thogra.
We did the right thing by helping Thogra.
Zelda's been wondering, where did you learn to cook?
That is a good question. The honest answer would be that I'm self-taught, through trial and error. I am particularly good at picking out the flavors and properties of the things I eat. A good trait for alchemists and chefs alike, I suppose.
I'd say. Appreciated by those of us who just like to eat too. What about the recipes? Do you come up with them yourself?
Most are my own recipes based on existing dishes. One of the few dishes I refuse to make myself is Thorn's famous savoury cornbread, and will only eat the ones my mother makes me when I am there. I want it to be a unique treat for when I'm home to see my family.
That's nice. You're close with them then?
Definitely. I go see them every chance I get.
Glad to hear that. I suppose that's why you mostly cook Argionian food, eh? Or do you just not like Dunmer cooking? Can't say I blame you.
Oh, I cook all kinds of food. Most Dunmer food is relatively bland, so I put my own spin on it. That is generally appreciated by my peers.
Wait, you cook Dunmer food too? But everything you make tastes so good.
Dunmer food has a solid basis, however it needs more diversity in ingredients to make it palatable.
It needs less ashyams and more... what you said. Hey, maybe you can give them some lessons, eh?
I've tried, but they won't listen. It seems most Dunmer believe suffering builds character. Perhaps they will come around at some point.
So, Thogra, are you a city orc or a stronghold orc?
I was born in Breville. That makes me a shithole orc, I reckon.
That bad, hmm? Granted, I haven't heard many people sing praises of Breville. What is the #1 thing to do there?
Leave.
I guess I should have seen that one coming.
Xelzaz, you're an Argonian, right? I mean, dumb question. What I mean is, you're an Argonian, but you're from Morrowind. Did you grow up with the Dunmer?
I'm from Thorn in Blackmarsh originally. I was relatively young when I moved to Lothanis in Morrowind.
Oh, didn't know that. What was it like? Blackmarsh, I mean.
What was it like, as opposed to what is it like?
Whatever, smart guy. You ain't my grammar teacher.
I'm asking because I suppose you figured I had not been there since I was a child. I would go to Blackmarsh relatively often. I was particularly useful for getting a hold of things that Dunmer would be unable to get. You see, Blackmarsh is not very hospitable compared to other areas of Tamriel. Places where it would be hard for other races to go are no problem for an Argonian. Thorn, though, is hospitable enough for other races to also inhabit.
Why is that?
The coast of Blackmarsh is less inhospitable than the interior. Imperial influence, for example, was limited to the coastal regions of Blackmarsh. Thorn is currently one of the few parts of Blackmarsh open to non-Argonians.
I hear it's quite the place. Is it true you have talking trees?
Well, you are technically correct. However, it is more complicated than that. These talking trees are called the Hist. Argonians are linked with them on multiple levels.
Huh. You ever talked to a tree then?
Perhaps I could give you a more in-depth lecture later.
Ahem. So,
I should cook some steak. Something on your mind, Thogra?
talking trees. Come on, smart guy. I'm curious.
Ah, yes. I said I would tell you more, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. So then,
The Hist are a sentient race of trees. Unlike the usual flora of Tamriel, the Hist are able to think and express themselves, like you and me. They don't do this through speech, but rather through the mind. You may wonder how that is possible.
can't say I wasn't.
The connection is made through Hist sap. When an Argonian consumes the sap from a Hist tree, said tree and Argonian become bonded. This bond extends to all other Argonians who also share in the sap from the same tree. This allows me, for example, to experience the emotions of my family back in Thorn as if they were my own. The Hist tree itself is also connected to other Hist trees. You could say both the trees and the Argonians all join a single consciousness together. This greater consciousness is also called the Hist.
What does it feel like? When they talk to you, I mean. Having something like that in your head, it sounds odd. Maybe kind of scary.
It isn't as much speaking as it is feelings and associations. It's no more direct speech than when one is thinking to themselves. It feels as real as your own thoughts, however they are distinct. You know they are not your own.
I see. I still think it would freak me out, maybe. But I guess it could be nice too. You don't get lonely much with them around, eh? Can all Argonians hear them?
No. I mentioned earlier that the connection between an Argonian and the Hist is made through ingestion of Hist sap. If an Argonian never has Hist sap, that Argonian does not become part of the Hist.
I wonder if it feels weird for them. Other Argonians being all connected like, and them just not. That must be pretty bad, I reckon.
Tell me, Thogra, what is the difference between Stronghold Orcs and City Orcs?
You mean apart from where they live? Depends on who you ask.
Well, I'm asking you right now.
Fair enough. Stronghold Orcs are boring. City Orcs are... well, it depends. My uncle, for one, was a drunk. Barrel of laughs either way.
I suppose that's all you'd be interested in telling me right now, hmm?
Nah, don't mind me. I'm just joking with you. Anyway, I didn't spend that much time with Stronghold folks. Didn't make friends there either. They're not bad, mind you. They're just very... It's all serious with them. All about Malacath and honour and fighting and all the things that orcs are supposed to be and do and want. Meanwhile, my ma was a waitress and my uncle was a town drunk. Guess that doesn't make me a very good orc, does it?
The blight of your family shouldn't cast a shadow over you, Thogra. Surely being a good orc should be something you decide yourself for yourself.
That's a nice thought. Not sure I'd call myself a good anything, but it's a nice thought. Thanks, smart guy. Good to have you around sometimes. Oh, I'm soaked. Worse than soaked. Hey, smart guy. What's the word for worse than soaked?
I believe that would be drenched, which would imply you are completely wet rather than very wet.
Sounds about right. Guess I won't need a bath for the next week or so. You don't seem bothered, though.
Bothered? By the rain, you mean? Not at all. It's nice to feel my scales soaking in the water. They're usually much too dry.
What, real? You're not pulling my leg?
I'm serious. The rain is a blessing. I feel honoured to be able to bask in it.
Bask? Right. You know, smart guy, you kind of freak me out sometimes. No offense.
I hear some orcs worship Trinimac rather than Malacath. Predominantly city orcs from what I gather. Are you a follower of Trinimac, Thogra?
Nah, can't say I even know that much about him. Maybe they worship him in some other places, but in Breville? People didn't even go to the Temple of Mara much, never mind the other stuff. Why do you want to know?
Well, I've always had a soft spot for your kind. Thus, I would like to know more about your people. Differences intrigue me, especially when the majority of orcs follow Malacath. I want to know why there are some worshipping Trinimac instead.
Huh. You might be asking the wrong person then. I guess I'm not the kind of city orc you're thinking about. We weren't anything special. We didn't do anything special. My next door neighbour was an Imperial, and we weren't even that different, you know. We looked different, sure, and my uncle swore by Malacath sometimes, but I was in the Legion by the time I found out what Malacath was about. The other guys, the other orcs in my squad, thought it was pretty funny that I didn't know. I guess it was. Kinda sad, too, if you think about it. So I don't. Anyway, sorry, smart guy. Maybe I'm not the best person to talk about that kind of stuff.
I see. I apologize if I brought back some bad memories.
You're fine, smart guy. You know me, I get soppy. Come on, talking gets me hungry. Hey, you still got any of them cabbage biscuit things you made back when?
I do. Might be slightly stale, but here you go. Thogra, how was life in the Legion? Any war stories to tell?
War stories, huh? Let me see. There's this one. Well, it's not a war story exactly, but it's a Legion story and I like it. So good enough, eh?
Go right ahead.
So, that was right after I joined. Me and a bunch of other new recruits were making our way to base camp. We were led by an auxiliary. She seemed so big and tough to me back then, but now I reckon she can't have been much older than the rest of us kids. We weren't that far from the camp when we met a farmer. Told us a bunch of goblins had raided his farm and made off with his cow. Guess it must have been his only cow, 'cause he was in a bad way, nearly crying. The auxiliary thought for a bit and said we'd help him get the cow back. Dunno if you've ever fought a goblin, but you got to know they're mean little bastards. They don't look like much, but they'll fight you with everything they've got. There were 7 of us and only 4 of them, and even then it got hairy. We got them in the end, though.
Goblins are uncommon in Morrowind. I have run into a few around Mournhold, though. Locals always seem to have issues with them there.
I'll never forget it, you know. What it felt like when the fight ended and we were all still alive. How the farmer wanted to shake all our hands. How we laughed and talked about it for hours afterwards. All of us. Even the snooty Altmer kid who'd used to act like he was better than everyone. How I felt sure, so sure I'd made the right choice by joining. Been a lot of water under the bridge since then, but I still like to think about it from time to time.
That was a lovely story, Thogra. Thank you for sharing it. That Thogra can eat. I have to make double portions for her, else I worry she will go hungry.